When I look back over some of the games that I played when I was younger, there's a lot of well-known popular titles. Then I come across games like Robopit for the Saturn and have fond memories of playing it, but I haven't actually played this in about 20 years, so does it actually still hold up to what I remember, or did I make some really bad purchase decisions when I was a kid? Developed by Eltron, maker of other groundbreaking titles such as Bratz Rock Angels, Alex Rider Stormbreaker, and Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi Kaznapped, Robopit was released in 1996 for the Sega Saturn and the Sony PlayStation. The PlayStation 1 version released first, with the Saturn coming only a few months later. The story, according to the manual, is that in the year 2042, all forms of physical violence to organic life forms have been banned. Instead, corporations sink large amounts of credits into developing AI to fight with customized robots, aiming to reach the top of the ranks. Using advanced weapons and parts, you aim to work your way up the leaderboards to claim that first place. But before you get into any of the fighting, the very first thing you need to do is create your own robot to use. Your selection of parts to choose from at the beginning is quite a lot and grows even bigger as you defeat more and more opponents. There's a wide range of designs to use for your body, legs and arms, all of which have different stats, which can affect your jump, your speed and your turning ability, all along with how you attack. Once you've designed your robot and given it a clever name, you can then venture into any of the other modes. Training allows you to practice against opponents without the fear of losing your rank or weapons, whilst Versus is a split-screen multiplayer fight between any robots that you've made. The main mode that you'll spend the most time in though is the aptly named Fight. Starting off at rank 101, you can pick any opponent up to 20 places above you to battle it out. Win and you not only gain points to improve your rank, but also gain the loser's weapons and some experience for your weapons to power them up. Lose and the same thing happens to you. Fights take place in one of 5 arenas and don't end until either you or your opponent are destroyed, fall off the ring, or the timer runs out. Depending on the parts you've equipped and the level of who you're fighting, matches can either be a cakewalk or a test of patience. Ranged weapons are good for hitting from a distance but are relatively weak. Melee weapons offer heavy damage for a slower attack depending on the weight of them. Having a balanced robot you'd think would be the best option though, but in reality the computer AI is rather dumb and can be exploited throughout the entire game. Controlling your robot is simple. Directional pad for movement, face buttons for attacking and jumping, and the shoulder buttons for strafing if you have the default control scheme set up. You can also choose between 3 different viewpoints, a mid and a far third-person camera or a first-person one. Each have their time when they're more useful, but I generally stick to the zoomed-out perspective. Depending on your legs, you'll find that movement is either straightforward or sluggish, and that it's only really the weapons that take some time getting used to with their different attacks and hitboxes for how close you need to be to hit. Considering how simple it is, it doesn't take long to find out what works best for your robot, and how to start winning fights with little to no effort. Most fights I found just involved me approaching the other robot and swinging away, stun locking them until they blew up. You do also have special moves that once the gauge is filled you can dish out a good chunk of damage with. So as you win more fights to climb up the leaderboards, you'll come across fighters that are silhouetted. These are essentially the boss fights of the game. These are the toughest fights in the game, but not by much. They're all unique robots with parts you can't win, so unless you want to challenge them, there's no real reason in actually facing them. There's only a couple of them too, with every other robot just being a randomly generated mess with a stupid name. Getting to the number 1 spot doesn't take too much time as long as you win and refight a few of the higher placed opponents for points. When you do finally hit rank 1, doing so doesn't end the game, as there's one final fight with the rank 0. This secret fight at the end has its own arena, and while it looks intimidating and ominous, has the same broken AI as the rest. I'm sure this was meant to be hard as it was the final fight, but not only did I just spam my starting gun, juggling the enemy backwards in a lucky loop, but it was also the only time I saw a ring out. And after claiming victory, a pathetic end sequence begins, showing you facing off against random robots with no credits of anyone who actually made the game. It's slightly disappointing, but I wasn't exactly expecting a massive fanfare. Once at the top, there's also not much else to do. You could swap out any of the parts you've collected and take on more fights, try new weapons, but there's not really any reason to do so. Instead, if you want a challenge, you can create a new robot, as you can have multiple ones, and set it to fight automatically. Here, you sit back and watch your creation battle it out, cheering them on from the sidelines. This can be quite fun, as it turns the game into a strategy game, where you're hoping your decisions lead to victory. It can also be quite painful to watch some fights, as the camera can glitch out around the stage, and the robots get stuck frequently or miss their attacks, but it's still a fun and a different way to play. Graphically, it's a very basic game with a lot of low poly shapes, objects and flat colours. It does have a certain charm to it, especially when you create some basic renditions of other famous characters. Menus, whilst minimal looking, are easy to read the stats and the figures that are shown. There's a total of about 3 songs throughout, nothing stellar, but they do fit in with the aesthetics of the game. And same for the sound effects, there's not many but they are passable. One thing that's weird though is the delay when you win a fight, where the announcer can pause between the words or sometimes just not even say one or both of them. As I said at the start, I have some fond memories of this game. I remember jotting down all the parts in the notebook and then taking that to school so then friends could make their own robots which would then fight out in an AI league. Whilst that sounds entertaining, actually putting that into practice was incredibly boring to watch quite a few fights just take forever. Overall though, the game does have enough challenge and customization that it could take you quite a while to play this, and if you really do want to power up and tweak your robot to the absolute best, that's going to take some time as well. On the other hand, if you find something that works really well for you from the beginning, then you're probably just going to steamroll every single opponent because you get more powerful after winning every fight. Maybe if you fought all 101 robots it could take some time, but as there's no actual reward for doing so, you kind of just need to get to number 1. The game must have done well enough though, because it did actually get a sequel exclusive to the PlayStation 1, and while I've not played it personally, from what I've read it's got more RPG elements into it. For this game though, it's worth a playthrough even if you just want to make some random robots and see how far you can get, or play with some friends. Just don't be expecting any finesse when it comes to the fighting. Anyways, I've been Tom from Jakejames Gaming, thanks for watching, have a great gaming day.